Holy Zoltar granting wishes, it's time for another episode of Spectales. I'm your Keymaster host Jake, along with my co-host Vigo the Bearded, also known as Jesus. What's going on, Jesus?
I see what you're doing there, man. You're busting ghosts of seasons past, if you will. Yes, the Astros won the World Series. Thank you, Jake, for bringing that up and making that a part of this Spectales intro. I really appreciate that.
No, I thought about it, and I had decided not to include the Astros in this opening, but of course you weren't going to let that happen.
You literally did. You literally did. So thank you. Thank you.
If this is your first time joining Spectales, thank you for giving us a listen. Spectales is a comic book podcast that has collectors and creators. What's your Grail tale? Each week, we explore new stories about the comic book grails we love, the epic journeys behind how they were obtained, and how they inspired new creativity.
We also dive into some comic book speculation and how, as collectors, we can help the hobby pay for itself.
This week, Jesus, we get to right a wrong that I will take full responsibility for.
Another one? Another one like the Astros? I mean, which one are you owning up to this time?
Yeah, I'm not sure I care for your tone on that, the way you said that. But since I am owning this one, it's the fact that our guest this week didn't get scheduled for a proper full episode the previous time he was on.
That could only mean one thing. James Ferguson is returning to Spectales.
You are exactly correct, my friend. Editor for the Scout Comics series Killchella, James Ferguson returns to the show to finally share his ghost-busting Grail tale.
In all seriousness, it was really great to bring James back on to get an update on the delayed release of Killchella and to talk about some of James's short comics too, which I think are really, really cool.
Completely agreed. And honestly, part of James' Grail tale seriously still has me laughing. So screw your courage to the sticking place and never trust a gatekeeper named Zool. This is episode 66.
This is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
Just begging to course its way through your veins.
Let's just for a moment speculate, shall we?
You're into comic books, aren't you?
I'm a nerd.
But you do like comic books.
Comic books aren't just for sad nerds anymore.
You think we need one more?
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
You think we need one more?
Objection, calls for speculation, move to strike.
This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea.
All right, we'll get one more.
Spectales, a comic book podcast with Jake and Jesus.
Hello and welcome to the latest Here-Hole-gasm episode of Spectales. This week, we've got a guest who's previously been on the show, but didn't get the full Spectales guest experience. He is the editor for the Killtastic Scout Comics horror series, Killchella, and the writer of multiple published comic shorts. Back for the full Monty, he is James Ferguson. James, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me. So I'm glad I got the full experience here. So soup to nuts here. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you thought we let you go, but just when you thought we let you go, we pull you back in for the full.
That's it. Yeah, I had an appointment last time, and it was fun because it was like when Jake, you were reaching out, like, can you go later this time? And I was like, yeah, like I had to go somewhere. Like it wasn't like it's like no, I gotta be in bed by 8:00 or that's it. Like I turned into a pumpkin or something, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean there was rumors floating around that you were walking around as a pumpkin and you hadn't turned back or something. That was it. we're glad to have you on.
I was curious how you got editing done as a pumpkin. Honestly,
it's a multitask. Yeah.
So, James, you were on with Mario when we did the Killchella episode, and I want to do an update for our listeners because Killchella got a little bit delayed because of the hurricane down in Florida. Scout Comics is located in Florida, and they were unfortunately hit pretty hard. What's the status of Killchella right now?
So issue 1 should be out and should be in the operative word there. I'm told next week. So whether it's next week, I know Diamond could be weird, but next week for, it's, was it November, what's that, 3rd, 4th? So if it's not then, it's going to be the week after. So I'm not going to necessarily believe it until I start to see it in shops. And I haven't gotten my comps yet either. So we'll see when they actually pop up here.
Gotcha. Okay. So that would mean This episode is dropping on Wednesday, November 9th. So by the time that this is out, it should definitely be Killchella 1 should be on shelves. And once again, Jesus and I are going to highly recommend it. It's a fun series. We were able to read the first couple of issues. Actually, we were lucky enough to get those 2 comps and really such a good horror series. I wish it would have come out earlier in October when it was slated to. I think it had the perfect slating. You know, it's a slasher series, and I think that it would have worked really well. But regardless, it's good writing. It's good art. You're going to enjoy it, everybody. So definitely look for it on shelves when you listen to this episode. And go back and listen to the Mario episode after you read it, because you're going to enjoy that conversation.
Yeah. And to add to that, so while the first issue is going to be out, you can now pre-order the second issue that is now in previews as well. So that'll be out there.
I've been seeing some really cool covers that hadn't been released when we had Mario on that are really dope and that I really want to get. I think one of them is from Fell. Is it Fellhound?
Yeah, Fellhound. Yeah. She did an awesome cover for us.
Yeah, it's amazing. And man, it's just, it's unfortunate that it worked out. Obviously nobody's fault, the hurricane and whatnot. But at the same time, it's building a little bit more anticipation, more people getting, word of mouth on it, seeing those covers. And I'm sure that at least our people, our scarce army is going to show up in droves to sell it out.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
They'll hit the shelves hard. So, but James, you're the editor on that, but what we had mentioned in that episode and we're mentioning here is that you are, in addition to being an editor, you are also a comic writer with multiple published works. So you sent us a few of those works. They are shorts that are in larger bodies of work.
Anthologies.
Yes.
Yeah. So I actually just got my first one here. I just got it this past week. So I was in 2 anthologies that were funded directly to Kickstarter. The third one, whenever the paper becomes available, will be popping up. And I've got 3 more that are coming that haven't yet hit Kickstarter, but they're coming as well. So it's been a fun experience jumping into that space and now working on longer form work as well.
Yeah, so that's what I definitely want to talk about. Jake likes to talk about, I don't know, like Houston Astros a lot because he's a secret fan, but I like to talk about the craft. So I have tons of questions, man, because one, obviously you're an editor, right? So you have an eye, you have that aspect of it, but now you're a writer. And my question is, what made you start off with the short form? Because I feel that a lot of us in comic books, present company included, like stories, like telling stories, like potentially have some story ideas for comic books or other books or movies or whatever. Like I think a lot of people do, but it's like a whole drawn out story. They want to do the next Star Wars or whatever MCU. But the short form, for me, at least for me, I can't think in short form. So what made you go that route?
Well, first and foremost, money. Because it's easier to make a 4 or an 8-page comic than it is to make a 60-issue epic. I'm starting out, right? So while I've written about comics for over 10 years, I was a senior writer at Horror DNA. I was a senior editor over at comiccon.com, and I'm writing about it for ages. So that was kind of this like boot camp of sorts to understand how to make them. But I also understood that I got to start out, I can't just jump right in there. So I have to build up that resume. So that was why I started short. It did take a little getting used to write with that. And Mario actually gave me some really great advice. He said, just jump to the prestige, right? Jump to that reveal. So you don't have to spend a lot of time building the lore and the mythos and all this other stuff. You got to jump in and like, look, there's some crazy shit. This is what's happening. And then like you jump right into it. And that when you change that frame around, like, all right, what is the fastest way you could get to that? And that made me think like comics are very much like it's an exercise in efficiency, because you have to look at this and say, all right, I can't fill the page with 29 panels because the artist will murder me. So I have to say, well, let's figure out the most efficient way possible. And you start to like cut things out. You realize, I don't need this. I don't need that. And it just simplifies and streamlines that process a lot.
Makes it super efficient. Yeah. So I read the stories that you sent over, and obviously some stuck out more than others. To me, but
I gotcha.
I think, like, I guess the question I have is, these stories to me had a lot of, like, I like to say, meat left on the bone.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
I don't think so, Jake. You don't know what I'm going to say.
I probably could have said it at the same time. Anyway, continue.
So do you have, one more meat on the bone for those stories, like maybe plans to make them longer in the future? And if so, why is it the one about the baby? No, I'm just joking.
You know what's so funny? That was the first one I made. Baby monitor. It's just great. I'll send that to anybody because, like, that's my calling card. That was the first one I made coming out of a comics experience course, and we got it together, and it doesn't have a home yet. But like, everyone's like, that baby one. Like, that was crazy, and I love it. I'm so proud of that story, but also like, all right, I gotta. Did I peak too early? What did I do here? So, but short answer, yes, I do have definitely more meat on the bone. Like, that's the beauty with all this stuff too. It's like they can serve as pilots for anything else. So, like, if there's an editor who's like, hey, I want to pick up something, or what else do you have? It's like, well, these are all shorts that I've made. Any one of these I could expand upon and do more. And it's just like the pilot episode. So this is the calling card to kind of get started.
Awesome. Very excited about that.
That's incredible. So for the listeners, do you mind going over where can they get these shorts? Because you sent them to us, which, I know you said you would send Baby Monitor to anybody, but is there a place where they can go and get these books?
So currently I'm trying to house everything at jamesfurcomics.com. So I set up a website for that. I have to link to the web store for the anthologies that I'm in so far, which are Tales from the Bazaar and Femme Fatale from Dren Productions, and then Nightmare Theater 2, which was all of them were funded on Kickstarter. So I'll have the links to all of those stores on there as to where to go to pick up those. But honestly, like, if someone's like, hey, I want to read the story, like I set up a specific folder so I could share the work out there for that. I own all the stories, so I can kind of do whatever I got to do with them.
So if somebody were to reach out to you on like Twitter or something like that, you'd be happy to.
I'd be happy to share the work in there. So
what's your Twitter handle? Where's your Twitter handle?
At James Ferguson.
Wait, that's simple? No.
Yeah, I know. I got there early. I was just James Ferguson. No numbers, no abbreviations. And I got to tell you, there's a horse trainer in England that I mistakenly get tagged for probably once a month. And it's the most confusing thing because I'll get tagged and I'll read it. And it said like, James Ferguson did a great job training that horse this week that was competing. And I'm like, thanks. I appreciate it. But like,
check out my comics. You need to do a short comic. Yeah.
I gotta do a horse comic now.
About a horse being confused for a comic artist. I
gotta write this down. So yeah. That'll be good. And that way I'll just send that as a link to
every time you get just respond with this. Hey, wrong guy, but read this. Okay, so I was going to ask you, when it comes to shorts, so I'm not overly experienced with comic book shorts in general. However, there is one that when I was reading yours, I started questioning how many short comics have I read in general, and one came to mind. I don't even know, actually. I think it's at the end of The Killing Joke, maybe. I can't remember. It's at the end of a Batman book, and it is Batman being killed, shot in the head by an absolute nobody. Like, it's like a tag along story. It's like six pages or something like that. And it is the most infuriating 6 pages to me because it gives you nothing except for a random guy who wasn't a supervillain, he wasn't a criminal. He just decided he wanted to end Batman. And so he sat with a sniper rifle on the rooftops of Gotham until however long, until he got his perfect shot. He shoots Batman in the head, and that's the end of the story. And I was like, why would anybody want to tell this story? But to this day, I cannot get that 6 pages out of my brain because it is just weird. Like it makes a person who's so Bruce Wayne's Batman is not superhuman. but obviously in all of his comics, he always seems to transcend normal humanity, right? Like that's what he does. And people blames it on money, but beyond that, like he's smarter than everybody, he's richer than everybody, and he's stronger than everybody. So he is superhuman by those standards. And so it brings him down, and then for him to be killed by literally Joe Blow sniper who just decided, I'm going to give this a go, right? Like,
well, so but think about it. So from the sniper's angle, you have this sheer determination, right? This is this guy that put everything forward, which you would argue that's what Batman does, right? Like he's got this singular focus to stop crime. This guy with a little bit more of a twisted angle is like he has a singular focus to kill Batman. But it also humanizes Batman more. So to all those things you just said, Jake, like, he always seems to be larger than life, but he could be taken out by a single bullet at any time. That's the risk, and that's also one of the reasons why he's such a fascinating character, because that could happen and he's done. That's it.
And I've been searching. I know I own this book. I have a lot of Batman hardcovers. You have a lot. Clearly, I can't remember. It's a tag along, so I don't even know. It wasn't. I don't think it was really even with the original book. Like either it's the Killing Joke or it's the Dark Knight Returns or it's one of them. Yeah. And it's just a tag along story that they put at the back of this printed copy that I got. And now I'm going to dig back through, but
now I'm curious. I mean, it sounds somewhat familiar, but like, I don't know. I have to look it up too.
It's one of the older ones from like the 80s. It's definitely one of the older Batman stories. And I want to say it's one of those two because those are the two that I tend to pull back out and reread the most. And every time I get to the end, I was like, damn it, this is the book. Now I got to read this stupid thing.
You could just skip those 6 pages.
I can't. Pages have to be turned.
You know, it's interesting because I really enjoyed the shorts, man. Like
James's shorts, yes, I definitely enjoyed James's shorts. And the Beauty or the Beast was just such a clever turn in
every year.
4 pages.
That one came together. Like I was sitting in the parking lot. My kids were taking Taekwondo, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, like this just hit me, and I'm like, oh shit, I got to write all this down. And like I was like frantically typing it all out on my phone. Sometimes like you never know what's gonna happen, but all of a sudden like that piece came to me. And actually, the artist on there, David Escobar, I got together with him because he did a short with Mario in a Mad Cave Studios anthology.
Oh,
so I was like, I'm looking for someone who could draw a cool monster. Because a lot of it comes from referrals from like work like that. So all the artists that I've worked with so far have been referrals for folks. So like David, who I worked with on Beauty or the Beast, was referrals from Mario. Sonia Kinsey, who I worked with on my Going Viral short, was a referral from my buddy Phil Butahorn. And if you want to talk about shorts, that dude is a comic short machine. I think he's written literally hundreds of pages of comics, and he's been in more anthologies than I could count. And like I've learned more about getting into and kickstarting comics and that indie comic scene from him than anyone else. It's amazing.
So that brings me to a good question. So can you talk to us through like how long it takes, one, for you to write it, 2, do you have it edited, or since you're an editor, you just go with the flow, and then 3, how long does it take to get artwork and color and all that stuff?
So the short answer is it varies because like it could be all over. I think the Dren ones, the Femme Fatale and or for Beauty of the Beast with my story there, and That's Me in the Corner, those came together over the course of a few months. The way that anthologies typically work, especially the indie scene, is that you're pitching a story. Sometimes you need a creative team. Sometimes it's just you, and then you need to say, all right, this is the story. This is what I'm looking to do. This is how many pages I need, and then you either get in or you don't. I've had my share of rejections. I've had a few acceptances. I have a pretty good batting average so far. And then once you get in there, if you don't already have an artist, you got to find one and then start to work on the process. Now, from an editor standpoint, it will depend on who's putting together the anthology. Because I've had every instance. I had one editor, Clay Adams on Nightmare Theater, very helpful. his comments were like trying to get the most out of the story and showing how ways that we can improve the story without kind of getting in the way of things. And then I've had other ones where it's like, cool, like that, like you don't have any notes, like there's not like one thing, you don't have any questions or anything, just you gave me a thumbs up, like that's all. I guess it's good, but like I was kind of expecting just a little bit more feedback. So it kind of goes either way with that. But then from the artwork, everyone is in the indie scene is usually doing something else too. So it could take, a 4-page short could take, a few weeks, if not like a month or so, just to kind of get everything together, because everyone's got lives. They got other commitments that come in and stuff. And then lettering is usually pretty easy. Matt Krotzer lettered 2 of my stories so far, and I have him on the hook to do my next one already, because he's fast. He does some great work. So I can't complain at all.
Very cool. So let's maybe put a bow on the James Ferguson, I guess, writings part of this. What's next for you?
So, as mentioned, I got a couple anthologies in the works. There's one. So while I started in horror, and as horror is still very much close to my cold dead heart, I've been branching out a little bit. So I have a short and a sci-fi romance anthology called Amongst the Stars, with Jenny Odio is illustrating that. It's another like idea that hit me, and I pulled it out. And it's got some cool time travel stuff. So a bit of a futuristic Back to the Future kind of thing that I like. And I've got a couple other shorts. Mario and I actually co-wrote a 3-issue series that we're looking for a home for, that we're illustrating with Andy Michael now. That was like it's like a coming of age revenge story. And then I'm also finishing edits on a 3-issue pro wrestling story that I'm going to work on with Dan Buxa, who illustrated my That's Me in the Corner, the short that I made for Tales from the Bazaar. So those were things like that came about. That actually came about from a failed pitch. So
really,
Dan and I pitched the story. We didn't get in, but we really liked the story and we wanted to do it anyway. And that was going to be a 5-page story. And now it's at least 60 pages altogether. It's going to be more than that. So
nice. Well, good for you. Please keep us posted on those, and we will continue to share that information with our listeners. We love Killchella. And the shorts that you sent us were all super entertaining, and they always had just something that just made it completely enjoyable and like shareable. All of them have that like super shareable, I wish I could send this to my wife kind of thing. Like, hey, spend 2 minutes, read this or something. The baby monitor one.
Thank you. Yeah. And I can't tell you, like, I know the exact moment you're thinking of in that short, and I can't, like, the level of joy I had when that twist hit me, like it was amazing. I was like yes, this is it. So that's the beauty of comics, man. Like, and then to see that come to life, and like that design, I had no idea. The idea I had in my head for the design of the monster in that book was completely different from what Juan Romero illustrated, and it was like, oh my god, this is so much better. Like, so that's the beauty of the collaboration with it. Like you're like, I think I want to do this thing, and then you get something back, and you're like, holy wow, like this is better than what I thought I had in my head.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you very much for sharing that. But now we got to get to the part of the show that you really didn't get to do at all yet. So this is all new territory. Let's jump right into it.
Recent pickups.
Kicking off with the recent pickups segment. Hey, Zeus, this is traditionally where you lead the charge, so I'm going to let you take it.
All right, man. So there's been an Easter egg on my screen. You guys obviously listening can't see it, but we had a speculation in the past. I couldn't pass it up. I saw it in a dollar bin. It's not really a dollar bin. I think it cost me like $4.50 or something like that, or $5. So I wanted to pick up what Mr. Ryan Little told us to pick up, which is 1602, number 1, which is the first appearance. It's the first Neil Gaiman written work for Marvel, and it's the first appearance of Peter Parquois from 1602. So, he made mention that we were going to be having some What If 1602. We don't know exactly what's going to be a part of it. But I wanted to pick it up. It's a pretty good story. I only have, I think, issues 1 and 3, so I'm waiting on 2 and 4, so I can kind of read the first arc. But there's also apparently something really interesting in this book where Neil Gaiman kind of, I don't know, like a wink and a nod in a bad way to Todd McFarlane for the lawsuit that had been going on for 10 years at that point, whenever this was printed. So it was pretty cool, but that's my recent pickup, man. I was really excited to pick it up. It's pretty cool. The artwork is pretty cool. So I definitely recommend it. One for the speculation from our friend Ryan Little. Well, did he? He didn't do the speculation, did he? He just talked about it.
Well, he basically just said that he was surprised because at San Diego Comic-Con they announced that this What If was going to include 1602, and he said nobody picked it up. Like no news, nobody, none of the fans, nobody was clamored for it, and they thought for sure it was going to be one of those things, and it turned out it wasn't. So.
Yep.
It's kind of like a forgotten gem, because they revisited that like for like one or two other miniseries, and there was a lot of diminishing returns from that. Like there's some great twists and stuff in the original series. I haven't read it in forever. I have the trade somewhere, but I remember it like when everything clicks, you go, oh, that's what all these things are. It's a lot of fun.
And yet everybody freaked out when What If was going into the zombies, right? Everybody was like, oh, Marvel Zombies is here. Like people went nuts. And
well, do you remember that initial twist though? Like when they did which zombies are we thinking of? Because like there's the Marvel Zombies that was the Robert Kirkman started, but then there was the one where Mark Miller did through Ultimate Fantastic Four.
It was that one. That was the one that was that What If.
That was a big deal. Yeah. Because that was the thing, because everyone was like, oh, the Ultimate Universe is going to cross over with 616. That's what everyone thought. Because it was Reed Richards like communicating with another Reed Richards from another world. Like, oh, it's obviously they're finally going to cross over. We knew they were going to do this. And then you turn the page, you're like, holy shit, it's zombies? Like, where did this come from? It was insane. Like that happened. Like it was like no one saw it coming at all. And it was just like, guess what, everyone? There's fucking zombies. Like,
keep you on your toes, man.
Oh, that's the best. So, yeah, Ryan Little was on with us last week or 2 weeks ago or whenever this is coming out. Anyway, and yeah, he is writing on What If, so he was able to announce a couple of things that had already been announced. It wasn't anything new on that, but he was a lot of fun, and it's always interesting because I love the What If stuff. I know it wasn't the biggest success story for Disney when that came out, but I really liked it because I thought they were, I thought they were just no holds bar.
I mean, it might not have been successful for us, but at least like my kids and stuff, they loved it. And obviously they're seeing something because they have season 2 and season 3 is coming. And they're also said it's canon. So that's kind of a big deal.
Yep.
And they've been pumping out, if you can't tell from my picture back here, I'm a big Marvel Legends fan, and they've been pumping out What If Marvel Legends lately. So those new ones that are written, are they like they're comics, or are we talking more about the show?
Oh, I apologize. What If the show? Yeah. Excuse me. Oh, that was what I was referring to. Ryan Little is a writer in that.
They did a recent What If series. There was the Spider Shadow that I think Chip Zdarsky wrote. That was like, what if Spider-Man became Venom? And what I liked about that was that they actually expanded it. Usually it's like, what if is a single one shot, and you can't do like, what if Civil War was different in one issue, because there's just not enough room to tell that story. So they always felt rushed. So that had a lot more room, a lot more space.
I'll have to ask our friend. We have another comic friend podcast. Dear Watchers is the name of it, but they basically exclusively dive into those alternate universes. And primarily a lot of the what ifs and those series. I'm going to have to ask Guido if he's read it because I have.
I'm sure he has.
He's read literally everything.
Yeah, man.
He's one of those guys.
That one I also like consider, because I also, not to brag, but I have a quote from one of my last reviews from Horror DNA on the trade collection.
Did you really? That's awesome.
Yeah. Nice.
You got that framed somewhere?
I mean, I just have the book. So what's funny is they don't tell you those things. So like I bought the book because I wanted to have the collection, and then I open it up and I go, oh, look at that! Like,
wait a second, I remember saying something like this.
I know that guy.
So, but they don't tell you, they don't give you a heads up. Yeah.
Well, but that's the horse trainer though that said that, not you.
Yeah,
that's true. Maybe that was it. Yeah. So.
All right, so James, what is what's your recent pickup? What's your recent something you recently read? What do you got?
So, I mean, the easy thing to say would be something like "Do a Power Bomb" from Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer. That
Love
book, like, just rips right into your heart. Like, amazing book. I feel like that guy could do no wrong. But I wanted to pick a different one that I just read the second issue this morning, which is the Vineyard from it's Aftershock Comics. It's written by Brian Hawkins and illustrated by Sammy Cavilla. And like, I've loved Sammy's work since he did this like, indie book called Dear Editor with Ryan K. Lindsay ages ago. And like, his artwork is just like incredibly detailed, like all this great emotion. And this is just this really interesting, scary and creepy book about this family that seems to be tied with the Greek god of wine, Dionysius, I think is I don't know how you pronounce that. But they're like literally sacrificing people to this deity and making the best wine on earth. But it's coming at a cost that's tearing the family apart. And it's just like, it's beautiful and tragic and scary. And it's just like all this great mix. And like, it came out of nowhere for me. I didn't see like any real lead up to it, but there are 2 issues in now and it's great.
I've seen that on the shelves. Didn't pick it up. What do you think? Yeah.
I would check it out. Like, look, if you're going there to pick up Killchella, the Vineyard is a nice compliment. So just as you like a wine pairing, if you will, with nice tie in there.
That's perfect.
I think that's it. You know,
that's
goes
gonna
well,
be
like a nice Chianti.
There you go. That's gonna be a quote on the trade of the Vineyard. I can already tell.
Nice. All right. Well, I am definitely gonna look for it then. Hopefully, it's still there.
Same.
I think it will be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get to my recent pickup and then we can move along. But because of the Halloween season, when we're recording this, it's still before Halloween. And I try to read a lot more. I always read horror anyway, but I try to read more horror during this. And I went back and revisited The Plot, which is Vault Comics, came out in 2020. It was an 8-part series, so it went from 2020 to 2021. But Tim Daniels, Michael Morrissey, friend of the show, wrote the book, and art was by Joshua Hickson. And this is a series that the artwork alone, love the writing. Writing is good, nothing wrong with it. But damn it, does the artwork steal the show in this series? It is. This artwork screams, make me into a movie. The monsters in the book scream Guillermo del Toro monsters. Like we need practical.
Pan's Labyrinth? Or Pacific Rim?
No, not Pacific Rim. Oh my God. Get out of here. Get out of here with your Houston Astros hat.
That was a big twist when the giant robot showed up. I was not expecting that at all.
But the plot is, it is moody, it is dark, it is scary. Like, it is a horror movie, like a monster movie level comic book series. It is something that I read it in a night, which is nice. It's easy to digest. It's super engrossing. You just page turn. It's not bogged down with a lot of words, so it's easy to read. But like I said, the monsters in it, the deaths in it are good, and it's gruesome and fun.
Yeah. Isn't it cool, man? Like, when a writer like Michael Morrissey like hits on something like Barbaric, right? And you get to go and discover his back catalog, right? Because he's been doing it for a while, and I think he said he had some sci-fi stuff and some other things that he's had, and you just kind of realize, like, man, you know, this has been good the whole time. It just hasn't had its audience. Yeah. So I'm really glad that you know, Barbaric, you know, the recent announcement, at least of this recording, that, you know, there's going to be a whole Barbaric universe, and then Michael Morrissey, a friend of the show, is kind of getting that. And thank you, Jake, for bringing it up, because I do have it. I think I have it somewhere, either digital or something that I need to read. So I'm definitely going to do that before the end of the month.
Yep, worth it.
Yeah, and if you want more from that team, from that writing team anyway, from Tim and Michael, have you read Curse, from their book that they did for Boom?
No.
It's a great werewolf book.
Ooh. That,
like, you want like horror with heart and terror and a lot, like, really try to find that book. That's a lot of fun.
Very nice. I'll definitely look it up. I like that writing team, And I certainly think that they know how to pace horror, which in comics is imperative, right? Like
it's on Comixology, by the way.
Nice. Look at that. I'm gonna read it tonight. All right, but that's gonna bring a close to the recent pickup segment, which means we're going to
Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale.
everybody's favorite segment, the Grail Tale segment, where we're gonna ask James here to take the mic and tell us his Grail Tale. James, you're up.
So I have a couple of different options here, but one of them is just something I don't know if this counts, something I've had since I was a child. So does that count as a grail of like, I didn't really have to hunt for this. My grandpa bought it for me, but does that count? Or can I have another one?
Yeah.
The best part is it's your grail, not ours. So you get to decide if it counts or not.
So I have, and it's hanging on my wall because I wanted to make sure I this toy I've had since I was a child, but it is a Ghostbusters Proton Pack from the real Ghostbusters cartoon series from the 80s. I was a huge fan, still am a huge fan of Ghostbusters. My first child, before we officially shared his name, we called him Egon. We just said little Egon. And that's what we called him before, when he was in utero. And in fact, a buddy of mine got like a painting, he commissioned an artist to draw a baby Egon. We actually called him Egon Raphael because those are my wife and I's our favorite Ghostbuster and Ninja Turtle, respectively. And my buddy got an artist to draw a baby Egon and Raphael, which is hanging in my son's room. And when my son was born, and we're like, "Hey, this is Oliver." He's like, "The fuck." Like, I thought you were going to name the kid Egon Raphael. Like, I got that painting done for you. I'm like, I'm not going to really name my kid Egon. But in any case, I have a Proton Pack that I've tried putting it on. I could just barely put it back on, but it's one of these things where I'm like, I got to hang this up, and it's literally hang up what you would do when an athlete retires and they hang up the jersey or something. That's how I feel I have the Proton Pack hung up in my office here, where it's this is a space of prominence. It's look, this is it. Yes, the Proton Pack is up here.
You are a retired child Ghostbuster. That's what it is.
Yeah, I paid my dues, thank you, and I'm living off my pension. That's it.
Candies and Snickers and stuff is what you're getting for your pension.
Well, that's cool.
That's my point of I have it in my I made sure when it survived a few different moves. It's somehow it's just, and it's intact. It got all the pieces to it and everything, but I took care of that just to hold on to it and make sure the kids cannot play with it.
Now, have you considered shadowboxing it or doing something like that?
So no, I haven't. That's a good point. I should probably put it, to preserve it more, is put it into something a little bit more sturdy than just literally screwing two hooks into the wall and hanging it up there on the flimsy fabric handles.
Oh God, yeah, it's really depending on a lot of it's
my old craftsmanship.
1980s toy craftsmanship. I'm sure that's going to hold together.
It's pretty solid though.
Yeah.
So I guess a couple of questions I have about it. One, so I guess it's obvious, right, that everybody in your family knew you love Ghostbusters around that age. Is that correct? And
yes, my fifth birthday party was at a firehouse, so that way it could be a Ghostbusters themed party.
Wow, that's awesome.
Damn, that's intense. That's cool. Your parents were they went all out for you too. That's cool.
And is this from the 80s?
Yeah, so I mean the back of it has a copyright 1984, but that's when the Ghostbusters movie came out. But if you Google Ghostbusters Proton Pack toy 80s, it's more from the cartoon, not from the movie, because the cartoon came out in 89, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
they did make one. They did make a new one that my son wanted, and we got him for Christmas, I think, a year or two ago. And it doesn't. It's hollow. It's just it's like a shell of the Proton Pack, and you had to buy all the pieces separate. So it was the pack was one piece, the gun was another, and then the little scanner thing was another piece. And I'm like, come on, really?
Damn you, Hasbro.
That's it.
Corporate greed.
That's it.
So I was you bring up something that I don't think about that often. However, I was one of the kids that I was born in the 80s, but I actually saw the cartoon first, and I was, I knew all the characters from the cartoon. I used to have some of the toys. I always assumed that the cartoon and the toys were all really closely tied to the movies. And then I saw the movies, because I don't think my parents let me watch them until I was a little bit older. So it was in the 90s by the time I actually saw them. And I was like, this is not the same. This is different. And at first I was pissed off, but I've since changed my tone, by the way. But as a kid, I did not like the Ghostbusters movies.
Yeah, I can understand that. Looking back, I don't know how I got into them, because like I was born in 84. Ghostbusters came out in 84.
Yep.
So I'm like, but how did I have a birthday party when I was 5? My mom was like, you loved that movie. They got it they taped it off the the VHS copy. They made a copy of it. We had 2 VCRs going to make copies of things, I guess. And like, I watched that movie just over and over and over again, and I was just into it. The cartoon was like a plus, but like I couldn't remember more. I could remember more from the movie than I could from the cartoon somehow. But I remember watching the cartoon religiously as well.
Yeah.
I was always confused about that movie, man, because the Stay Puft Guy and this is Ghost. I never got it when I was younger until I was much older. I would say in my teens, and then I was like, oh man, this is a pretty dope movie. I think I watched the cartoon as well, but I was more of a Ninja Turtles guy. I collected Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. But that's awesome. That's a really. I just think it's dope and it's cool that you've kept it for so long. I mean, that's,
I don't think I have anything else. I have an Egon here too, from this. I have an Egon from the cartoon. This is like the original Egon. His joints aren't very strong. He's a little sticky, but like it's my little Egon. So that's it. But like I haven't held on to anything else that certainly that long. So it was clearly very important. So
yeah, none of my stuff made it, man. My mom then sold all of my toys, and that's probably why I'm in the comic books and stuff now. Sold
here in Nebraska. I'm pretty sure most of my toys went to a burn barrel. I'm only half joking about that. The other half is really true and sad. But the other part to this is I heard the origin of a Grail tale, and I'm not even sure you're aware of it, James. But the Egon Raphael portrait that got done, this has the makings of a Grail tale. That is a really good story. I mean, can his nickname be Egon?
Yeah, I mean, well, we still like, that's still hanging up in his room. He's 9 now, and like that's still hanging up in his room. It has not moved. Like we've moved the room around, we've changed it. That has stayed in the same spot.
Wait, does he know?
9-year-old, he does. Yeah, we've explained it to him. We like this is what, and I said like, look, you can't get rid of that. Like, do you understand? Like, if you get rid of that, I'm taking it. So like, understand that he's like, no, I get it. Like, he sees how it's important. He's watched Ghostbusters, he's watched Ninja Turtles, so he understands it all. But it's just like, he understands that like, this is a story and this is important to me as who I am as a person and who my family is and the nerds that they are. So it's fun.
I have a feeling, dude, you're gonna have like a 19-year-old son come home from college one day, and he's going to be like, Dad, check it out. And he's going to be like, I got Egon on one arm and I got Raphael on the other.
Well, no, he can get it tattooed on his knuckles. Egon and Raph on either side. Aren't you proud, Dad?
Yes, I'm so son. The Grail tales out of this one story alone is priceless. No, that absolutely fits the Grail tale story. Awesome. We have it. It has now been encased. Jesus and I collect Grail tales, so this one is we're collecting it. We're gonna get it graded later. We'll get it encased and graded, and we'll tell you what it comes back.
It'll be back. Yeah, it'll be back in a year or two.
Yeah, a year or two.
That's how long they're taking now.
But yeah, totally. I think this is a 9/8 candidate, though. Don't you think, Jesus?
Yeah, white pages for sure.
All right. Well, that's going to complete the Grail Tale segment. Let's get along to our final segment. Speculation. The speculation segment. This is, not maybe the listener's favorite segment, but I think this is my personal favorite segment because this one is really the competitive one. This is the one where we really just, we can sort out the winners and the losers here on Spec Tales. And actually, I think I'm. What episode are we on? This would be like 60.
I'm 49-7.
No, that's not true. I think I'm 66-0. This
49-7. So
yeah.
Yep.
That's not even enough episodes. I think we were at 66.
We didn't have speculation on Halloween. There's some Halloween specials coming. I'm sorry. There's some what?
No, you're not. Well, by the time they hear it, that's not even a spoiler anymore. So the speculation segment. A lot of our listeners tend to be collectors and they want to help the hobby pay for itself. And this is where we're going to discuss a collectible or some sort of comic book collecting tip that may help them do just that. So Jesus, since you're the reigning champion, I'm gonna let you go first.
I'm doing the belt sign.
Oh,
I'm the champion. Okay, just
is it the discount double check?
No, it's the speculation champion, if you will. So I have two today. There was actually a teaser earlier in the episode, if you caught it, from James, where he talked about where they revisited 1602. So I'm going to say 1602 number 4 from 2005 with the artist Michael Golden, which, by the way, Michael Golden has some awesome artwork out there that I'm trying to pick up, along with Daniel Warren Johnson, which that's going to be one of my girls pretty soon because I just saw an Alien commission he did on Twitter, and I was like, oh man, that's so dope. But yeah, artist Michael Golden, writer Jeff Parker, 1602 number 4 from 2005. That's where the first time Peter Parquois becomes the Spider. I'm sure if they use him, the Spider is going to come out in the What If. So that's a dollar bin book. Has a pretty cool cover. It's a white cover. It's hard to find in high grade. Dollar bin book right there, 1602 number 4. And the second one I have is actually something that came out this week, the week that we're recording. By the time you guys hear this, will be two weeks. So it's very recent. The Riddler Year One with Paul Dano as a writer, and Bill Sienkiewicz. We've been hearing the name Bill Sienkiewicz a lot on our podcast. Yep. On the cover art, obviously big names. That's probably the only way they could do this and make it work for DC and for Paul Dano. Origin of the Riddler. It's a cool book. Something cool. Something interesting. Seeing a lot of famous people, actors and stuff getting into comic books. I think this is the beginning of the tip of the iceberg, if you will. But I definitely think that that's a book you should pick up, whether you're reading it and also for speculation in the future.
I think it's great. Yeah, I like both of those or all of those. All right, cool. Well, good job. I mean, what, like 5 points? Good job, Jesus.
I win. Hold
on now. James still has to go, and obviously I'm gonna go. So, James,
I'm just what is it called?
Confident?
Sway. No, I'm just swaying the judges. Go ahead.
Oh, all right.
Calling a shot. I got it.
James, what do you got?
So, I have to admit, I was a little. This was tough. This is the hardest part of the segments to prepare for because I rarely notice the numbers, like the issue numbers of comics. So, like when someone rattles off, like, oh, well, this issue number, I was like, I remember the ish, like the not ish, but like the basic parameters of that, but I can't tell you, oh, that's Batman numbers. No idea. Nope. But one thing that I think I was originally thinking about hardcovers and stuff because like there's hardcovers that go out of print, and then there's suddenly like 3-4 times their value. But like that's I guess tougher to speculate when something that could go up from like a single issue comic that's going to go from like $4 down to hundreds is a lot higher margin. So I think there was a recent one shot from Boom called Power Rangers Unlimited, The Death Ranger. And this one, it just sounds really awesome. But two, it was an interesting introduction to a character, the Death Ranger. Written by Paul Aller, illustrated by Catherine Lobo, who, fun fact, was the colorist for Killchella #1, tying it all back together.
There you go.
And it's just an interesting character and something that I think they're introduced and are kind of scratching the surface as to what that character can do. So from looking at, yes, it's a recent book that like just came out earlier this year, but there's something about that like has a staying power similar to what they've been doing in those Power Rangers comics for years now and just absolutely killing it.
Yeah, well, you got to get in on the ground floor on some of these books, some of these characters.
That's the one with the cool helmet, right? Where it looks like a skull, I think. Yeah, so that one.
Yeah,
that was
so
pretty
when
dope.
they spun that character off into like the main series, and it led up into the Power Rangers 100, and like he like takes over other characters, and it's like the whole front of the mask turns into a big skull. It looks
Yeah.
badass.
Yeah, exactly. It looks badass. And real quick, quick anecdote, man. Power Rangers I watched growing up, and I was shamed by people who would shame me. They wouldn't say that now, but they did shame me back then. But it was awesome to see this week. My sons, my twin boys, 8-year-olds, were so excited that a new season of Power Rangers came out on Netflix, and they were just going ham on it. So pretty cool. So yeah, that's a very good speculation there.
I believe there's a couple of variant covers that are pretty badass for that, aren't there?
Yeah. There's definitely some. I mean, Boom has been putting out some nice ones. I mean, the ones to always look out are the ones from Goni and Montez, because it's the holding the helmet, and to get that one specifically, it's a foil variant too. So that would probably be an even if I could double down on mine, I would say the foil variant for that one shot.
Cool. I think that's a great one, and there's nothing wrong with it being recent, because getting in on the ground level of these characters is sometimes the best way to go to be the most affordable, right?
I just want to point out that Jake called mine a great one, and he didn't say the same thing for the other speculators that were the other.
Well, well, Jesus had he got 5 points, and James, you definitely get like 8 points, right? Like I think so. As far as the score goes,
so you're saying 5 times 2, right? Because I had 2, so that puts me at.
I think he was trying to put them together. 5 cumulative.
Yeah, exactly. So you were like 2.5 for each, and
it too, James. It too.
I mean, I'm like, it's a competition. You were calling your shot early.
Yeah. Don't worry, we all shake hands later and say good game. Jesus, at the very least, you're going to get a participation ribbon. And all right, well, where James's was maybe a little bit more on the affordable side, with this being October, with it being the Halloween season, we have yet to do speculation on my absolute favorite era of comics, and that is pre-code horror. And pre-code horror is not cheap. However, due to the time of year, I just wanted to bring it up because in light of also within the speculation market, within the comic book market, there has been to some people, a very drastic drop off in prices. Prices have come considerably down, or books that collectors bought maybe during 2020 or 2021 when there was a huge incline in prices. Some people were buying books thinking that those prices were going to keep going up and potentially fail, and they might be sitting on some books that unfortunately they could lose money on. So that is a real thing going on amongst a lot of collectors and people who got in really heavy at the comic boom of 2021. So what I'm saying is, of the books that did not get impacted by this recent decline in comics, is pre-code horror. Actually, the prices have never been higher. And that is a lot to do with the Golden Age books. There really are just fewer of them out there. And I wanted to throw it in the ring that I'm not going to speculate on one very specific book, because while there are very few of each specific book, there are a plethora of really gorgeous, fun options to go out and try to find. I would say if you are the type of person that is seeing comic books as a fun, I don't generally like to use the word, but investment, right? If you are an individual that's like, I'm going to put my money in a book and that I feel like is going to go up in value later. If that's what you're absolutely seeking, and you're like, yeah, well, one, blue chip books for starters, but even, I mean, we're looking at some of the biggest Bronze Age blue chips have taken a pretty steep decline. Hulk 181, Giant Size X-Men. I mean, the Bronze Age, Silver Age books have even seen a considerable decline. Not as much, right? Like you get into some of those books and it's huge. But what I'm saying is, are you digging through those old bins? Are you going through and looking for the old Jack Davis covers? Are you going through and finding, just flipping through some of those Golden Age? They're there, right? You can go into, if you've got a store with a pretty decent back catalog. Not everyone is a thousands and thousands and thousands of dollar back bin, for books. That place doesn't exist that I'm aware of. But you can go and you can find some really spectacular pre-code horror covers. And like one of my favorites is Tales from the Crypt 42. This is a book that I've talked about on the show. It is a pre-code horror. It is a Jack Davis cover. It is one that was done in 1954. And the best part about it is it's really not a notable cover. You're not going to find it on any like the top 20 pre-code horror lists or anything like that. But it is one of my favorite covers of the Tales from the Crypt. And that thing, I think I got it for a couple $100. I can't remember what I got it for anymore. I probably have it graded. I think it is a pretty old book, and I would like to preserve it. But one thing I know is that if I got that thing graded, I could probably double my money right now. And I think that's good. I think that is a really viable option if that's something you're looking for. This is me talking about something I love, though. I love the pre-code horror books. So once a year, it's Halloween. I'm just going to go off on that tangent. That's my tangent. I get 10 points. I win.
Sure. But, a couple things to say about that. So I found that it's kind of two sides of it. Sometimes sellers or collection sellers know exactly what they have with Golden Age books or pre-code horror, and sometimes they have no clue. And then also, even books that are just early 1950s, late 1940s, even if they don't have any significance or people don't highlight them or whatever, because they're getting so old now. I mean, you're talking about 70 years old.
Oh, absolutely.
They're selling for minimum 35, 40, 45, 50 bucks. And they don't have a great cover. They don't have the greatest cover or whatever, just because they're so old and they're getting, harder to find. And one thing you said, Jake, really resonates. These top 20, books, whatever, right? These top 20 books or whatever, there's a consensus apparently, right? And this consensus came from years and years and years. But
it's L.B. Cole. It's usually the artist driving it, right? Like it's one of these famed artists, and people want to get their hands on their covers.
Yeah, but it's also their taste as well, right? Because people have different upbringings. They have different things that they like, that they don't like. Werewolves, pinups, bondage covers, good girl covers, all that stuff, right?
Are you into bondage covers, Jesus? Just
obviously, you don't see these right here next to me.
Sorry.
No, I'm hiding one right here like this. I didn't want to show you guys. I'm hiding. No, I'm not. I'm just joking. No, but you know what I mean? Like everyone has different, likes, and there's a bunch of stuff out there. And I'm glad you highlighted that because, and I'll tell you something too, right? I'm sitting on 2 modern age books that I didn't necessarily buy as investments, but I also bought them because they were new female leads in the MCU. And now those books are not worth what I paid for them, right? However, I bought those books, and I think I told you, Jake, I didn't really care. Like if I made money, I would sell them. If not, I would keep them because they're superheroes, and I have a daughter, right? And maybe in a few years, my daughter's going to like them and want them, and I'll be able to give them to her. So I'm okay with that. So if you're going to be investing, right, quote unquote investing, probably the safer bet is going to be Golden Age, but also buy anything that you like and you won't mind having in your collection if it goes up or down in value, either way.
Which is, and that's why I chase the pre-code horrors. It is a slow process though, especially if you start really targeting covers you love. So just keep that in mind. But I couldn't go all of the Halloween season and the funny thing is they're going to listen to this 2 weeks after. Not quite, but yeah, either way.
We'll know you did it in time though.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a thought that counts. Good try. Good try there. Participation ribbon. There you go, Jake.
10 points. I win. I win. But a very close second is James. And James, you played the game famously. This fantastic job. I mean, you should really commend yourself.
Well, here's the other thing I will tell you too. The trades in the omnibuses is also a good one. If you would have talked about that too as well, what you did a little bit, you touched on it. My only concern, because I've thought about it as well, like especially too with the one that Chris Hacker came on and talked about the Book of Doom.
Oh yeah,
right.
That's a great one.
That thing is dope. I want one. The concerns with those are like once they go out of print, you're like, yeah, they're out of print and they go up. But then at any moment, Marvel can drop the hammer and say, hey, we're going to do another one. And then you're
That's what's happening, right? So that Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, that book was selling for 4 times its cover value. It's like selling for $400. It's like insane. And then Marvel just announced, hey, guess what, guys? We're reprinting it. Like, it's done. Like that.
I wonder if they have somebody saying, okay, as soon as it gets to 4 times cover, let us know.
Well, you know what's funny? Sometimes they make little changes, Marvel particularly, because like I have Amazing Spider-Man 1, 2, 3, and 5, and the volume 2, the font on the spine is different, and that will drive collectors nuts. So to go and track down a previous version. Or a newer version or whatever, so that they all line up on the shelf. That might be worth it for folks to get that and still be able to pay a higher cost for it.
That's an intense level of OCD, but I definitely get it. Right?
Yeah, like I get it too. I'm not that, but I know it would bug me. It would just bug me.
Yeah, I'm not ready to try to throw down for something like that. So for me, I'm like, I set my eBay watches and I'm like just waiting for some of these to come down in price. Sooner or later I'll get lucky and find one, but we'll see.
All right. Well, that really completes the episode here, guys. We made it through all 3 segments. I do want to make a special note that for all you listeners out there, if anybody's sitting there being like, hey, I really like these guys, I want to send them a comic book. Jesus is looking for any and all bondage cover comic books.
Also, any Daniel Warren Johnson art. If you guys want to send it to me, by all means.
Just have any lying around.
Jake, why are you bondage shaming me? All right, that's not cool. Hashtag stop bondage shaming.
Yeah, hey, I'm king shaming here.
I always say I really like I joke with Ryan at Automatic Comics about the Kool-Aid Man covers, which this is my name. I coined the name. There's a bunch of pre-code horror covers which all have the same thing going on, where it's basically like a lot of them are bondage covers where you basically have one person that is like tied down or trapped or about to be murdered by some villain or something like that. And there's always the hero breaking into the room in the background, like kicking in the door or swinging in on a vine or something. But I call them the Kool-Aid Man covers because it's always like some dude about to save the day, but you see the person in peril and the person saving the day. And it's like, oh yeah, coming in. And so the Kool-Aid Man covers, those are good ones too. And Jesus will also take those.
Yes, definitely. Send them my way, especially if they're pre-code horror and they're worth thousands and thousands of dollars.
Send them my way. The nickel copies. Don't send them the expensive ones. All right, James, thank you very much for coming in, joining us again. We kicked you off the show last time midway through. We told you, get out of here, James. We don't want anything to do with you. But that was a lie. We were lying, and we really enjoyed you on this.
It was a ruse.
Yeah, it was a ruse. And we really enjoyed you playing along on all of our segments. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was a blast. Thanks a lot, guys.
Absolutely. And once again, could you give everybody your very easy to remember Twitter handle where they can go find you and your website?
Just my name, James Ferguson. I'm available to talk about comics and horses and whatever else you want to chat about.
Awesome. That is going to do it for us, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We will be back again next week with another fantastic guest.
Nice.
Because Mary and I keep working together, we're also working on an anthology with Phil Butehorn, who I mentioned before, and another buddy of ours, Matt Sumo. That's our pizza story. We're doing I don't know if did he mention this to y'all?
I don't think so.
So we had this idea to make an anthology, each of us writing a story, and it's set in a world where pizza is outlawed. So it's obviously a horror story, but each of us wrote a different story that's set in this world. Like that was the only rule, was just it has to be set in this world where pizza is outlawed, because the president at the time was seen eating pizza with a knife and fork, and everyone made fun of him. So he outlawed pizza around the world. You can probably figure out like when we thought about this idea. That's been in the works for a while. And like we've all the stories are in different levels of completion, but like that's one like we're just gonna put it out there because like this is something we wanted to do, and we're all friends and we wanted to just put this thing out there.